guys, welcome back! As you know, in the 80s and early 90s, graphics weren't at all the selling point of a video game. Covers were and adverts on magazines, just like this one from Game Over that I've reviewed in detail in pixelthing's episode 58. So, let's take a look at some other examples on how to sell a game in the 80s and early 90s.
Back then, publishers needed to somehow trick consumers' minds. Artists with no background on video games were hired to draw covers that could really stand out on store shelves. But even the prettiest of covers would probably be left aside if there were also titles in which a female character was the main focus and someone that back then every young kid only dreamed about interacting with. Obviously, games converted from the arcade cabinets that players already knew about would sell the game for its own, even if the conversion wasn't as good as the original due to obvious limitations of the machine for which it was made. Besides that, the company's logo stamped on the cover was another factor that would make players instinctively buy the game. In my case, every time I saw Ocean's logo on the cover of a video game, I wouldn't think twice. Back in 1988, I came across War in Middle-earth. Its cover just blew my mind, and even being completely unaware of Tolkien's masterpiece, I bought the game just by looking at its cover art. This one in particular had screenshots on the back taken from the ZX Spectrum and Amstrad CPC versions of the game, but I simply ignored it. Its cover was what really got me right from the minute I laid my eyes on it. Many of ZX Spectrum video games had screenshots on the back of the box or case, but not always those screenshots were from that particular version. Publishers would normally place screenshots from superior ports, like the Atari ST or even the Amiga versions of the game that were graphically miles away. Even so, Spectrum users would normally knew what they would be getting and end up buying the game anyway, cause while playing it, our imagination would embellish the game just like those superior screenshots and that amazing cover art with a breathtaking illustration that would by itself pull us in to play the role of the character portrayed in the front of the case. Sometimes the cover art was replaced by a photograph that would somehow depict the gameplay and bring an extra level of realism, but in this particular case of Barbarian the Ultimate Warrior from 1987, placing this girl in a bikini in the front of the box annoyed some people that protested about that innocent photo and didn't even care about knowing what the game was about. By the way, in the game we simply chop people's heads off with a sword. But I guess that a girl in a bikini is way more shocking than this. Back then there was no YouTube or even World Wide Web in which we could rely on before buying a video game. Television advertising for games was practically inexistent, so it was the cover art that would grab our attention. Of course that there were magazines, expensive ones, that came from England and Spain, and if I opted for getting one of those monthly or even weekly publications, like the Spanish Micro-Hobby, I had to consequently forget about grabbing a brand new game in the next 4 or 5 weeks. And what about the full-page adverts on those magazines? Absolutely gorgeous pieces of hand-drawn art that would also feature, or not, tiny screenshots taken from the game itself. One of those adverts was for Theropods, a game that I never saw at any of my local software vendors, but every time I came across its advert on magazines, I simply stood there, looking at it, drooling all over the place, cause its hand-drawn cover is simply mind-blowing. By the way, every single cover of every Psygnosis game is a freaking work of art. Until they were purchased by Sony, that is. After that, psygnosis blended in completely. They just simply couldn't stand out anymore. And by the end of the 80s, those same magazines started offering tapes and discs filled with demos of future releases, and at that point, things started to change a bit. Gamers had now the chance to try the game before instinctively buying just by looking at its cover. This was the beginning of the end for hand-drawn video game covers. Nowadays, video games covers are completely left aside. Users buy games on digital format just because they know practically everything about it. Their judgment on a specific game is based on the huge amount of online info in the form of written text previews or video reviews and walk and playthroughs. So, a simple banner showing the title is enough. As for me, and if I'm really interested on a specific game, I try to avoid all that info and buy the physical copy of the game, explore it, and figure it out for myself, just like in the good old days. You can now visualize how awesome it was back in the 80s to walk into these small hardware shops and lay our eyes onto all those covers. That was our way of judging if a game was worth buying or not, and while looking at each and every single one of them, our mind would instantly build the setting and imagine how awesome it would be to embark on that journey and play the role of the hero depicted on its cover, or get onto the pilot seat and control that massive and astonishing spaceship. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Pixelthing, and if you did, comment, like, share and subscribe to get all my weekly content. Also check my latest episodes and all the others available on my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next week.